Jack had never expected his new life on this alien world to be so complicated. After all, he was just here for a work placement, nothing special. A few months ago, Jack was a regular guy living back on Earth. Then he got the opportunity of a lifetime to work on an intergalactic project. His job was to help with the Earth and alien diplomacy efforts. This meant he had to live among the people from other planets, but nothing prepared him for his roommate. Zara was from a species called the Velcor, known for their graceful yet strict customs. They were an advanced species with tall, elegant bodies and bright blue skin that shimmered under light. Zara was a diplomat, representing her people in the council that dealt with intergalactic relations. She had lived on Earth for 2 years. Jack was her new roommate in the shared apartment they had been assigned. It was all supposed to be simple living together, learning from each other, and learning from each other. Jack was a little nervous, but he was excited. He'd never lived with anyone from another planet before, and Zara seemed nice enough. She had a calm demeanor, though she was often busy with her diplomatic duties. Jack didn't mind. He was happy to live on his own, not worrying about anything too serious, but today was different. Jack was in the middle of a routine check around their apartment, making sure everything was working, when something completely unexpected happened. Zara had been floating around on one of her species' typical floating platforms. A large disc-like, the device that helped them move around easily without walking. She was supposed to be repairing the platform, adjusting it to a new set of coordinates. Jack, meanwhile, was moving some items in their small living room, unaware of what was about to happen. Jack stepped back from the bookshelf, stretching his arms. When the next thing he knew, he felt something hard hit him. His head spun as he looked up, blinking in confusion. To his surprise, he found himself under Zara's floating platform. Her platform was hovering inches above him. Zara herself was in a state of complete panic. She quickly pulled herself back, floating a few feet away, her bright blue skin turning a darker shade of red. Zara's usual calm demeanor was nowhere to be found. She seemed to be struggling to breathe. "Jack, I'm so sorry. It's completely against the rules," she stammered, looking flustered. Jack blinked a few times, still not entirely understanding. What had just happened? He'd been standing there, minding his own business, and now he was lying under Zara's floating platform. He pushed himself up from the floor and rubbed the back of his neck. No problem," he said, trying to be casual. "It was an accident, right? I didn't mean to? No? You don't understand." Zara cut him off, her voice shaking. She quickly adjusted her platform again, hovering higher, her body rigid with discomfort. This ... my people - they. We have rules about proximity. You're not supposed to be under me. This is highly improper." Jack was even more confused now. He raised an eyebrow. "Wait, what you mean? I wasn't supposed to be under you? I didn't even realize I was there until I got knocked over." Zara sighed deeply, her hand shaking slightly. "My species, we have strict codes of conduct. Physical proximity, especially with someone of the opposite. Well, you must understand, we do not ... we do not allow this." Jack's confusion only deepened. What was she talking about? He was just under her platform for a second. No big deal, right? But Zara seemed to think this was a very big deal. I'm so sorry," Zara continued, her panic making her voice waver. "I can't have you in this position, Jack. This could cause problems, serious problems. With my people. They'll think that I've broken the laws of our species." Now Jack was feeling guilty. Zara had been nothing but kind to him since they started living together. She'd shown him the basics of alien etiquette, helped him with understanding their culture, and even given him tips on how to handle his work. He had no idea this would be a big issue. "Zara, I didn't mean anything by it," Jack said softly, trying to calm her down. "I'm just ... I didn't know. You've been nothing but helpful. I never meant to offend anyone." But Zara was still in full-blown panic mode. "It's not just about offense," she exclaimed, her floating platform shifting nervously in place. "If anyone finds out, they'll think I've completely disregarded our customs. I've worked so hard to be a good representative for my people, and now I've done something completely wrong. Jack frowned. He hadn't even thought about how this small accident could affect Zara's work. He was just trying to live peacefully and learn. But he now realized this misunderstanding could have serious consequences for Zara's diplomatic career. He quickly stood up, deciding to do whatever he could to fix it. Zara, calm down. Let's figure this out, okay? We can talk to your people. Explain it was an accident, Jack said, his tone more serious now. I'm sure there's a way to clear this up. Zara hesitated, glancing nervously toward the door, as if expecting someone to show up and reprimand her. You don't understand, she said quietly. This is not something that can be easily fixed. There are cultural expectations, Jack. My people. They value boundaries above all else. This could have lasting consequences. Jack realized just how deeply rooted Zara's species' customs were. It wasn't just an awkward moment. It was something much bigger in their culture. And as much as he wanted to brush it off, he knew Zara was right. This wasn't just about one small mistake. It could affect her standing with her people, her career, and everything she had worked for. He had to help her. Jack made up his mind. They would find a way to solve this together. The next few hours were full of confusion. Jack tried his best to give Zara space, but it was clear she was still shaken by what had happened. As the hours passed, Zara became more distant, avoiding eye contact and barely saying anything as they both worked in the apartment. Jack didn't want to push her, but he couldn't help but notice how tense she was. Zara was usually calm and collected. As a diplomat for her species, she had always carried herself with confidence and grace. But now Jack could see the cracks in her calm exterior. She kept adjusting her platform, hovering it slightly higher every time she moved. She seemed to be constantly looking around, making sure she was not too close to him. It was almost as if she was afraid to be in the same room with him. Jack felt guilty. He knew he hadn't done anything wrong, but seeing Zara so upset made him second-guess everything. He wanted to apologize again, but every time he opened his mouth, Zara would give him a quiet, anxious look and turn away. She was lost in her thoughts, and Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this was much bigger than he initially understood. Finally, after what felt like hours of awkward silence, Zara spoke up. Jack, her voice was shaky. I need to talk to you. Jack turned to face her, relieved to finally hear her speak. Of course, Zara, I know this is hard, but I just want to understand. You've always been there for me. I want to do the same for you. Zara sighed deeply, her shoulders dropping as if a heavy weight had been lifted. It's not that simple, she said softly. You're a human, and I'm Velcor. We come from different worlds, and our rules are so strict. There are things I can't explain, things I can't change, no matter how much I want to. Jack frowned. He could see that Zara was struggling with this, but he was determined to help. Zara, you don't have to explain everything to me right now, but I want to help you. You're not alone in this. We can figure it out together. Looked at him, her glowing blue eyes filled with uncertainty. You don't understand, Jack. In my culture, physical boundaries are everything. Touching, being too close to someone, especially someone of the opposite sex, is forbidden, unless it's done in the most formal and specific way. I was careless. Now this mistake could affect everything. My reputation, my career, even my place on this planet. Jack didn't know what to say. He hadn't realized how serious this was. He thought it was just a minor misunderstanding. But it was clear now that Zara's world worked very differently from his. The rules that governed her people were strict, and a single slip-up could ruin her standing. Zara, I'm so sorry, Jack said, his voice full of sympathy. I didn't mean to cause any problems. I never thought it would turn into something like this. Zara's expression softened, but she still looked conflicted. I know you didn't mean to cause harm, Jack, but that doesn't change the fact that I've broken one of our most sacred rules. My people will not forgive me for this. They'll see me as weak, incapable of following the most basic customs. I'll be marked as a failure. Jack could see the fear in Zara's eyes. He knew that the last thing she wanted was to disappoint her people. Zara had worked so hard to get where she was, had earned the trust and respect of her superiors. To lose that now over something so simple seemed so unfair. Well, what can we do? Jack asked, his mind racing for solutions. There has to be something we can do to fix this. We can talk to your people, explain what happened, right? Zara looked down, her fingers nervously twisting around the edges of her floating platform. It's not that simple, she said, shaking her head. In my society, once something like this happens, there's no going back. My reputation will be damaged beyond repair. They won't believe it was an accident. They'll think I've disrespected our customs on purpose. Jack's heart sank. It sounded hopeless, but he refused to believe there was no way out. He wasn't about to let Zara face this alone, especially when she had done nothing wrong. Well, what if we could? Prove it was just a misunderstanding? Jack suggested. We could gather evidence, maybe even ask your people to reconsider. Yeah, you've been nothing but respectful to them. Maybe they'll understand this was just a mistake. Zara looked at him with disbelief. You don't understand? How this works. In my culture, respect is everything. There is no room for mistakes, and you are human. You don't know our ways. How can I ask my people to forgive me for something so... So personal, Jack thought for a moment, his mind buzzing with ideas. Then it hit him. What if we showed them that humans can be just as understanding of your rules as you are of ours? Maybe if we explain it in human terms, they'll see how small the mistake really was. Zara paused, her eyes narrowing slightly as she considered his words. You would do that? You'd help me? Of course, Jack replied without hesitation. We're in this together, Zara. I don't care about the rules. I care about you. Zara blinked, her blue skin glowing faintly in the dim light. For the first time since the incident, she smiled, though it was a small, uncertain smile. Thank you, Jack. I don't deserve your help, but I'm glad you're here. Jack grinned. No problem. We're roommates, right? We've got each other's backs. Zara seemed to relax a little, though there was still worry in her eyes. I don't know if your plan will work, Jack, but I'm willing to try. If you can convince my people that this was just an accident, well, maybe there's hope after all. Jack nodded firmly. We'll make it work. You've helped me, and now it's my turn to help you. Zara's gaze softened, and for a moment the tension between them seemed to lift. They weren't just roommates anymore, they were friends, bound together by a shared understanding of the struggles they both faced. And Jack wasn't about to let her down. The days that followed were filled with tension, but Jack refused to let Zara's panic consume her. He spent his free time reading everything he could about the Velcor people. It was clear that their culture was much more complex than he had first imagined. The strict codes of conduct were not just about personal space. They were deeply tied to respect, honor, and the way the Velcor interacted with other species. Jack spent hours reading articles and books about Velcor traditions to understand the finer details of their way of life. Zara, still uneasy, seemed reluctant to talk about it much. She was busy preparing for an upcoming council meeting with her people. She kept to herself more than usual, and Jack could see that the pressure was getting to her. Her once graceful movements were now stiff, and her usually calm voice trembled when she spoke. Jack, Zara said one afternoon, her voice shaking slightly, I can't do this. Can't go back to the council. They'll never forgive me. For this mistake, it's too much. Jack was determined to help her, no matter what it took. He had grown fond of Zara. They had shared many conversations, worked on small projects together, and had even started making jokes about their cultural differences. He didn't want to see her lose everything because of a simple misunderstanding. Zara, he said firmly, stepping closer. This isn't over yet. I've been reading about your culture. Think we can find a way to fix this. We just need to approach it from a different angle. Zara turned to face him, her eyes wide with disbelief. Jack, you don't understand. My people won't see it that way. In my society. Once someone makes a mistake like this, there's no going back. There's no room for second chances. Jack shook his head, but that's not fair. If they care about you as much as you've worked for them, they'll understand. You've spent years building respect. This one mistake doesn't define who you are. Zara sighed deeply, her shoulders slumping in exhaustion. It's not about fairness, Jack. It's about honor. And honor is everything to us. I've failed. That's how they'll see it. Jack refused to give up. What if I could prove to them that you haven't failed? What if we could show them that the rules they value so much might be seen differently by someone who doesn't know them? Zara looked at him, her eyes searching his face as if trying to read his mind. What are you suggesting? Suggesting that we show them how understanding can cross species lines, Jack said with a spark of determination. I'm going to meet with your people. I'll explain it the human way, the way we see things. Maybe if we explain it to them from a different perspective, they'll see that it's not as big a deal as they think. Zara opened her mouth to protest, but Jack held up a hand. I know this is crazy, but I'm not going to let you go through this alone. You helped me when I didn't understand your world, and now I'm going to help you. Let's do this together. Hesitated, her eyes filled with fear, but after a long moment, she gave a reluctant nod. Okay, I'll trust you. But if this goes wrong... ... It won't go wrong, Jack reassured her with a confident smile. We've got this. The next day, they arranged a meeting with Zara's superiors, the highest-ranking members of her species. It was a tense moment for both of them.
Atch.
Jack could feel the weight of the situation. He was just a human, and he had no idea how the Velcor would react to someone from his species speaking up, but he wasn't about to back down. As they stood in front of the council, Jack could feel the eyes of the Velcor on him. They were tall, with sleek, shining blue skin and delicate features. Their clothing was ornate and ceremonial, reflecting the importance of the meeting. Zara stood by his side, her face pale but determined. The council chamber was silent as one of the Velcor leaders, a tall figure named General Orcs, stepped forward. He regarded Jack with a cool, assessing gaze. We have heard about the incident involving our diplomat Zara. What do you, a human, have to say about this? Jack felt the weight of the moment. He had to tread carefully, cleared his throat, trying to steady his nerves. I understand that in your culture, proximity and boundaries are extremely important, and I know that my presence under Zara's platform was a mistake. But I'm here to ask you to consider this from a different perspective. The room was still, all eyes on him. Zara looked at Jack, her eyes wide with fear. In human culture, Jack continued, we value respect, but we also believe in understanding. And forgiveness. We don't expect perfection. We recognize that mistakes happen, and we try to learn from them. I think Zara made an honest mistake. She wasn't trying to disrespect her culture. She was just ... being human. There was a pause. Jack could feel the tension in the air. Like everyone in the room was waiting for the council's response, General Orcs finally spoke, his voice low and serious. Your words are interesting, human. But how can we trust that such mistakes will not happen again? We cannot afford to show weakness, not with the intergalactic peace negotiations at stake. Jack nodded, understanding the weight of the situation. I get it, but Zara is not weak. She has proven herself to be a dedicated diplomat and a person of great integrity. This one mistake doesn't erase everything she's worked for. There was a long silence as the council members exchanged glances. Zara stood beside Jack, her body tense, waiting for their judgment. Finally, General Orcs turned to the others and spoke. We will take this into consideration. Zara, we expect you to be more careful in the future. But we will not punish you for this mistake. The human has made a valid point. We will allow for understanding. Zara blinked, her body relaxing. For the first time in days, Jack smiled, knowing they had done it. They had convinced the council. It wasn't over, but they had taken the first step toward fixing the situation. As they left the council chamber, Zara looked at Jack with gratitude. I can't believe it. You did it. You actually convinced them. Jack smiled back, his heart swelling with pride. We did it, Zara. We make a pretty good team. Zara nodded, a look of relief crossing her face. Thank you, Jack. I never thought I'd be able to go back after this, but you... You helped me more than you'll ever know. Jack chuckled. Anytime. You helped me first. I was just returning the favor. As they walked back to their apartment, Zara seemed lighter, her steps more relaxed. The journey wasn't over yet, but they had made it through the toughest part. Jack knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter, one where humans and Velcor could learn from each other, mistakes and all. The days after the council meeting were full of uncertainty. Zara had barely spoken a word to Jack, her thoughts still clearly consumed by the fear of what had almost happened. The tension in their apartment was palpable, and Jack couldn't help but notice how Zara's usual calm demeanor had shifted. She was constantly distracted, her eyes glazed with worry, and her mind seemingly always far away. Jack understood. He could only imagine the weight of what she was facing. Her reputation, her career, and the future of her place on this planet had all been on the line. And while the council had agreed to give her another chance, Jack knew that it wasn't over yet. There was still a lot to prove, both to her people and to herself. One evening, as they sat in their apartment after dinner, Jack decided it was time to bring it up again. "Zar," he began gently, "how are you holding up? I know things are still ... tense, but you've made it this far. You can't let this one mistake define everything." Zara sighed, rubbing her temples. "It's not that simple, Jack. You don't understand how much this mistake has cost me. The Velcor don't forgive easily. They are still watching me. The council might have given me a chance, but that doesn't mean I've won their trust back. The next misstep, no matter how small, could be the end of my career. I can't afford to fail again." Jack felt a pang of sympathy for her. "But you're not alone in this, Zara. You have me. We've already proven that we can make it through tough situations together. This isn't the end." Zara looked at him, her expression softening for the first time in days. "I know you're trying to help, Jack, but sometimes I feel like, no matter what I do, I'm always one mistake away from losing everything. I've worked my whole life to get here, to be trusted by my people. And now it feels like all of that could just disappear." Jack reached across the table, gently placing his hand on hers. "I understand the pressure you're under, but you're stronger than you think. You've already shown your strength, Zara. You've earned their trust. And you've earned mine. You're not alone." Zara looked down at their hands, her blue skin glowing faintly under the soft light of their apartment. She seemed to struggle with her emotions, but after a long silence, she spoke again. "I don't want to disappoint you, Jack. You've been so kind to me. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like I'm walking on a tightrope. One wrong step, and I could fall." Jack squeezed her hand, offering her a reassuring smile. "You don't need to do this alone, Zara. We'll figure it out together. If you trust me, I'll do everything I can to help you. You've already shown me your trust. Now it's my turn to return the favor." Zara's eyes softened, her lips curving into a small but genuine smile. "I don't deserve your help, Jack, but I'll take it. You're right. I've been so focused on what could go wrong that I haven't thought about what could go right." Jack grinned. "That's the spirit? So what's the plan now? Can't just sit around and wait for something to happen." Zara nodded, her mind racing as she thought about their next steps. "I'm going to need to meet with the council again. I need to show them that I'm still worthy of their trust. ... But this time, I need your help. You'll be there with me. Together, we can prove that my mistake doesn't define me." Jack felt a surge of determination. "You've got it. Whatever you need, I'm with you." The next few days were spent preparing for the crucial meeting with the council. Zara worked tirelessly, practicing her speech, preparing her arguments, and making sure she had every detail in place. Jack did everything he could to support her, even offering suggestions from his own perspective as a human. His ideas were simple, but sometimes it was the simplest solutions that worked best. By the time the day of the meeting arrived, Zara's nerves were on edge. She dressed in her formal attire, a beautifully crafted garment that shimmered with intricate designs, and Jack could see the tension in her every movement. "You look amazing," Jack said with a reassuring smile. "You've got this." Zara forced a smile, but her anxiety was clear. "I hope so." "This is it, Jack. If this doesn't work, I don't know what I'll do." "You'll make it work," Jack said confidently. "We'll make it work. Just remember, you don't have to do this alone. We're in this together." As they entered the council chamber, the air was thick with anticipation. The Velcor leaders stood in a circle, their towering figures casting long shadows across the room. General Orcs, The same leader who had spoken to them before was there, a stern expression unchanging as he eyed Jack and Zara. Zara's heart pounded in her chest, but Jack stood by her side, his presence offering her a sense of calm. She stepped forward, ready to face the council. But her words faltered for a moment. General Orcs's gaze settled on Zara. "You've returned? I trust you have a reasonable explanation for your previous actions." Zara nodded, her voice steady but filled with determination. "I do, General. I've thought long and hard about the mistake I made, but I want to show you that I have learned from it. My actions were unintentional, and I ask for your understanding." She paused, glancing at Jack, who nodded at her silently, encouraging her to continue. However, Zara continued. "I've also come to understand that my people value respect and honor, but I believe that we can evolve, learn from others, and find new ways to connect. I ask you to consider this. Perhaps there is room for a little more understanding, a little more forgiveness, not just for me, but for all of us." The room was silent as the council members exchanged glances. Zara's heart raced, and she held her breath, hoping her words would be enough. Finally, Orc spoke, his tone less harsh than before. "Your words are unexpected, Zara, but perhaps there is wisdom in them. We will take your words into consideration. However, understand this: your actions have consequences. You must prove yourself worthy of our trust once again." Zara nodded, relieved but still cautious. "I understand, General. I will prove that I am worthy." As they left the council chamber, Zara turned to Jack, her eyes filled with gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you. I couldn't have done this without you." Jack smiled, feeling a sense of pride swell in his chest. "You did all the hard work. I was just here for support." "But you're not out of the woods yet, Zara. We still have a lot to prove." Zara smiled back, the weight of the world seeming to lift off her shoulders for the first time in days. "I know, Jack, but with you by my side, I feel like we can do anything." As they walked back to their apartment, Zara's steps felt lighter, her heart more at ease. The road ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time in days, Zara felt hopeful. The days following the council's meeting were tense. Zara and Jack waited anxiously for the final decision. Zara had worked hard preparing her case, but there was still a lingering feeling of uncertainty in the air. The council had promised to consider her words, but Jack could sense that Zara was still worried. She had been through so much already, and this was the moment that would either prove her strength or break it. Jack tried his best to reassure her. "Look, Zara, you've done everything you could. You've shown them your dedication, and now all we can do is wait. Trust that they'll see reason." Zara nodded, though her eyes still reflected the deep concern she was carrying. "I hope you're right, Jack, but what if they don't? What if I've already lost their trust?" Jack put a hand on her shoulder. "We'll deal with it if it happens. But I'm telling you, I've seen how hard you've worked, and I know that you deserve this. It's just a matter of time before they see that." Zara gave him a small smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You've been so supportive." "Jack, I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to thank me," Jack said with a grin. "We're roommates, right? That's what friends do?" Zara laughed quietly, though the sound didn't fully mask her worry. She had spent so much time focused on her duties, her reputation, and what others thought of her, that she had never really stopped to think about what she wanted. But now, with Jack by her side, she felt something she hadn't in a long time: hope. The next morning, they received a message that sent Zara's heart racing. The council had called another meeting, and this time it was for a final decision. They were ready to speak on the matter. Zara's anxiety spiked. This was it, the moment of truth. Jack, noticing her tension, gave her a reassuring smile. "You've got this, Zara. Just remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest." Zara nodded, taking a deep breath. She wasn't sure if she was ready, but she knew she had to face this head-on. With Jack's support, she walked into the council chamber for the second time in a week. The council members stood as they entered, and Zara immediately felt the weight of their gazes. Their expressions were serious, but there was something different about them this time. There was a sense of quiet expectation. General Orcs, the leader of the council, stepped forward. Azara, we have considered your words carefully. We have discussed your actions, your words, and the sincerity of your intentions. Zara's heart pounded in her chest. Was afraid to speak, afraid of what might come next. But Jack, standing beside her, squeezed her hand, silently giving her strength. The Velcor have always been a species that values respect above all, General Orcs continued, and we are not a people who forgive easily, but there is also wisdom in what you said, Zara. There is value in understanding and in the ability to learn and grow from our mistakes. Zara's breath caught in her throat. Could it be? Could they actually be offering her a chance? We have agreed, General Orcs said, his voice firm but not as cold as before, that your actions, though a breach of tradition, were not intentional. We recognize that you were acting in good faith, and we believe that your mistake does not define your character. You have earned our trust once again. Zara couldn't believe what she was hearing. It felt as though a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. For the first time in days, she felt free. The council had forgiven her. They hadn't just given her a second chance, they had acknowledged her efforts, her growth, and her sincerity. Jack, watching her, couldn't help but smile. He had known this was coming. Zara was strong, and it was impossible for anyone to ignore that. She had worked hard to earn her place. Now the council could see it too. Tears welled up in Zara's eyes, but she quickly wiped them away. Thank you, she said, her voice breaking slightly. Thank you for giving me this chance. I promise I won't let you down. General Orcs nodded. We trust you, Zara, and we believe you will continue to serve our people with honor. Zara's knees felt weak, but she stood tall, her confidence returning. The council had shown her that even the most rigid traditions could evolve. It was a moment of personal triumph, not just for her, but for her species. It wasn't just about following rules, it was about growth, understanding, and the willingness to adapt. Zara had been right to speak up, to challenge the way things had always been done. As the council meeting ended, Zara and Jack made their way out of the chamber. Zara was walking on air, her face alight with relief. I can't believe it, Jack. They actually forgave me. Jack chuckled. Told you. Just needed to show them who you really are. They couldn't ignore that. Zara laughed, her voice full of emotion. You're right. I've been so focused on what could go wrong that I never considered what could go right, and now everything's changed. Jack smiled, watching her with pride. Don't. You changed it, Zara. You proved that sometimes mistakes can lead to something better, and I couldn't be more proud of you. Zara's eyes softened, and for the first time since all of this began, she looked at him with genuine warmth. Thank you, Jack. I couldn't have done this without you. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Jack shrugged modestly. What can I say? You're pretty easy to believe in. Zara smiled, the weight of the past few days finally lifting from her shoulders. I think I'm going to take a break from worrying for a while. Actually, enjoy life for once. Jack raised an eyebrow. That's a great idea. Maybe we can grab some dinner on me. Zara looked at him, her smile broadening. Dinner sounds great, but only if you promise not to get under my floating platform again. Jack grinned, the mood lightening. No promises, but I'll try my best. Zara laughed, the sound filling. The hallway, as they walked out of the council building together, it was the first time in days that she truly felt at peace. The road ahead wasn't without challenges, but now she knew that with Jack by her side, she could face anything. Had both learned a lot over the past weekend. One thing was clear, they were in this together. The days after the council meeting felt different. Zara and Jack's lives slowly began to return to some sense of normalcy, but everything had changed. Zara's reputation had been restored, and the weight that had hung over her was finally gone. It was a victory not only for Zara, but for both of them. They had faced the challenge together, and now they were stronger because of it. Zara spent her days back at work, meeting with various council members, preparing for future projects, and managing her duties as a diplomat. But Jack could see the change in her. She was more relaxed, more confident, and she wasn't afraid to smile anymore. The worry that had clouded her every move had faded, replaced by a newfound peace. One afternoon, as Jack was working on a project of his own, he heard a soft knock on the door of their apartment. He glanced up and saw Zara standing in the doorway, a small smile on her face. She looked like she had just come from a meeting, her usual elegant attire replaced with a simple yet refined outfit. "Hey," Jack said with a smile. "What's up? Was wondering if you had a minute," Zara said, stepping inside and closing the door behind her. There's something I want to talk about." Jack immediately set aside his work. He had seen that look in her eyes before when she had something important to say. "Of course, Zara. What's on your mind?" Zara hesitated for a moment, as if considering how best to phrase her words. She had never been one to openly express her emotions, especially not in front of someone she considered a friend. But now, after everything that had happened, she realized that it was time to let go of the fear and be honest. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said," Zara began, her voice steady, but with a hint of emotion. "It is about how mistakes don't define us, how they can lead to something better. I've spent so much of my life focusing on doing everything perfectly, on following every rule. But I've learned something important, Jack. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to make mistakes. And I've also learned that, that I don't have to face everything alone." Jack looked at her with understanding. He'd always known that Zara was strong, but he could see now that there was a vulnerability to her, a side of her that she had kept hidden for too long. "I'm really proud of you, Zara," Jack said softly. "I know it wasn't easy, but you've come so far. You're not alone anymore. I'm here for you." Zara smiled, her eyes glowing with appreciation. "You know, when I first got here, I was so focused on keeping my distance. The rules on being a good diplomat. But I forgot what it felt like to have someone truly care about me. And now I realize that I don't have to do everything by myself. I can lean on others. I want to thank you for being that person, Jack. You've been there for me more than I can say." Jack felt a warmth spread through him at her words. It wasn't just about the big moments, the council meeting, tension, but the small moments too, the ones where they supported each other without even thinking about it. He had helped her, and in return, she had helped him grow as well. "I'm glad I could help," Jack replied. "But honestly, it was you who got through all this. You showed everyone who you really are, Zara, and that's why they gave you another chance. Because you're not just a diplomat. You're a person who's willing to learn, to grow, and to make things better." Zara's eyes softened as she looked at him. For the first time, Jack saw a glimpse of something deeper. Bond that went beyond their cultural differences. It was a friendship that had been forged through understanding, trust, and mutual respect. "I've been thinking about something else too," Zara continued, a little hesitantly. "I've been so caught up in my work and my responsibilities that I forgot to think about what I want for myself. For the first time in a long while, I'm ready to stop worrying about how others see me. I'm ready to just ... live." Jack raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Live, huh? What does that mean for you?" Zara smiled, a spark of excitement in her eyes. "It means taking chances, doing things that make me happy, maybe even learning more about Earth, about humans. I've spent so much time focusing on my species that I've forgotten how much I can learn from yours." Jack laughed, feeling the lightness of the moment. "Well, if you're looking for things to do, there's plenty to explore around here. The Earth's food scene alone is enough to keep you busy for weeks." Zara chuckled, and the sound was easy, like they had slipped back into their old routine. It was as if the past few days of tension and worry had never happened. "I'd like that," she said. "Maybe we can start with the food. I've heard humans have some interesting tastes." Jack grinned. "Oh, you have no idea. Let's start with pizza." Pizza. Zara's curiosity was piqued. "What is that?" "You'll see," Jack said, his grin widening. "But first, we've got to get to know each other a little better, right?" Zara raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "Well, you've learned a lot about my world," Jack said. "Now it's my turn to learn about yours. What do you say we spend a day exploring your culture, what you love, what you miss about home, everything? You've always been there. For me, let me return the favor." Zara paused for a moment, then smiled. "I think I'd like that. I think it's time to show you the real Velcor way." And so their new journey began. The road ahead wasn't easy, and the future still held challenges. But Zara and Jack had learned something valuable from their shared experience. They didn't need to be perfect, and they didn't need to follow the rules all the time. Mattered most was that they had each other's backs. They had faced the unknown, made mistakes, and grown together. And now, as they moved forward, they did so with a stronger bond and a deeper understanding of the world around them. As they left the apartment, ready for their first adventure together, Jack couldn't help but feel that this was just the beginning. They had conquered the impossible, and now they were ready for whatever came next.